Thanks for joining with Beautiful Savior Lutheran Church in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, and me, Pastor Nick, for this brief Bible dive. This is actually the third one in a set of three. We're discussing the three gifts that the Magi brought to the young Jesus, where they appear in the Bible and history and in all sorts of stories, what the symbolism is behind those gifts. We talked the first time about how gold was symbolic of Jesus being a king. The second one of frankincense being symbolic of Jesus as divinity and as a priest and a high priest, to be clear. And now we're talking about myrrh. Myrrh is spelled M-Y-R-R-H. M-Y-R-R-H. That's one of those words that it'll just blow your spell checker up. Trust me, because as I was preparing for this, it just kept blowing up my spell checker. But it's in there. It's just hard to completely spell it correctly. And so anyways, we hear about it in the story of the Magi in Matthew chapter 2, verse 11, where it states, "On entering the house, they," meaning the Magi, "they saw the child with Mary and his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then, opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh." Now, in order to understand myrrh more fully, it's important to see the history and the background of this gift of the Magi. Myrrh, M-Y-R-R-H, it comes from an Arabic word which means bitter, bitter. It's collected from the stems of shrubs that grow in Arabia and parts of Africa. Basically comes out as a pale yellow liquid from these natural openings in a bush, in a certain type of bush. And once outside of the plant, the liquid hardens into a reddish brown substance. So actually, here is what myrrh hardens to look like. That's in its more solid form. And here it is in the more liquid form. I'll tip it so you can kind of see the darkness there of it. And so it comes out in this reddish brown substance. And myrrh can be used in all sorts of ways, but ways that deal with wounds, pain, and healing. It's been used as an antiseptic and antistringent, even as a stimulant. It's often used to disinfect wounds. And I do want to be clear, just as I'm getting into this, I am not a medical doctor, so I'm not giving prescriptions or medical advice, and I've never tried even doing any of these things. I am a doctor, but not the type that you'd want to have with medical kind of things. I do hear that although it does not taste very good because it's, again, bitter, hence its name. Apparently, some people have used myrrh to alleviate inflammation in the body by basically making a myrrh-based tea. Some have used it in their mouth for sores and other conditions. But again, always consult your medical doctor because I'm not that type of doctor. I'm not recommending what to do. Okay, disclaimers aside. On to the other properties. Myrrh can be used as an incense. And so it's been used in religious practices for thousands of years. This stuff in the more liquid form was part of a famous Egyptian perfume. I'm going to totally botch this word, but it's like kypri or kypri. To transcribe it or transliterate it, it's K-Y-P-H-I. This famous Egyptian perfume that was used for embalming when they were preparing mummies, when they're embalming the dead bodies. So myrrh was a key ingredient. Egyptian women, we have recorded that they would use myrrh as a cosmetic. Historians also record that the Egyptian women liked its cooling effect on the skin, which would probably be pretty helpful if you lived in a very hot desert-like area. So even the early Egyptians, the Egyptians, as well as other ancient cultures, they used it to a great extent, but it also appears in the Bible. The number of times I was able to count, myrrh appears 16 times in the Bible and 3 more times in the Apocrypha, which are those books between the Old and the New Testament. We hear in the book of Exodus that God told Moses to use liquid myrrh, so again, liquid myrrh, as one of the ingredients in this holy oil that would be used to anoint the Ark of the Covenant and other things in the worship space. And also, according to Exodus chapter 30, verse 23, the Hebrew priests were to be anointed with this special oil mixture. This mixture was considered actually so special and so distinct that if somebody was to make it, if they made it in their home and not in this special priestly setting, people would be cut off and banished from the people, told never to return. It was taken that seriously. Later on in the Bible, in the book of Esther, we hear right in the beginning, Esther chapter 2, verse 12, that the young Jewish girl Esther, she was being prepared for King Ahasuerus so that he might choose her from amongst many young women for his new wife, that she had myrrh applied to her skin for 6 months as a beautifying agent. So some type of myrrh-like liquid would be applied, not myrrh-like, myrrh would be applied for 6 months to her skin. There's tons of verses about myrrh as a healing and an agent, as a skin product that are in the Psalms, the Proverbs, in the Song of Solomon, which is actually a love poem that's written right into the Bible in the Old Testament. And then in the Gospel according to Matthew, we then hear this story about the Magi bringing myrrh as one of the gifts for the young Jesus. So this history is all well and good, but why exactly might the Magi have brought this as one of their 3 gifts to the young Jesus? Myrrh is as I mentioned, it's a product used for human beings when they need certain health things. Human beings who bleed, human beings who need skincare products, who need healing and health and recovery. And of course, not just like with the Egyptians, but others in ancient cultures, human beings who eventually need preparation for burial. So even when Jesus was very young, just a little while into this world, the Magi brought this gift that foretold, that was symbolic of this young king being one who would suffer, who would die, that his kingship would not be easy. Now, I think about this, and I think back to, baby showers that I attended for my children. Imagine you're at a baby shower, and somebody brings to the baby shower, they're like, oh, we've got this special gift for you. We brought you embalming fluid. Or they bring you a business card for a local funeral home. Not really the kind of thing you'd want to see at a baby shower, right? I mean, that's totally out of place. It just would seem so strange and weird, and maybe make sure that you never get invited to another baby shower again. But you see, there was some special thing that they knew about this young child, or maybe unintentionally the symbolism was there, whether they knew it or not, but this is the gift they brought, and it must have just been that strange. Well, later in Jesus's life, we hear that as he hung on the cross, Jesus was offered wine mixed with myrrh as a way to take away his pain. However, he did refuse and instead continued his dying process really as painfully as possible. That it was the wine mixed with myrrh offered on a branch of hyssop. I believe they offered him vinegar as well. Well, after Jesus's death, Nicodemus, that's the one who first came to visit Jesus in the night out of fear. Nicodemus was on the high council, the Sanhedrin. Well, Nicodemus brought a mixture of myrrh and aloes that people used to wrap Jesus's body before putting it in the tomb. We think about the Egyptians wrapping mummies. It was used in preparation for burial. So to summarize all of these gifts, in gold, Jesus was seen as a king. In frankincense, Jesus is seen as a priest, and really not just a high priest, but the high priest. And in myrrh, a bitter thing that reminds people of the bitter but true words and true actions and true sufferings of the prophets. We see Jesus's role as one who would suffer in a very, as the prophets did, as ones who came to speak the truth, who would suffer and even die. So what does this all mean for us? It means that Jesus, King of the universe, came to us as God in the flesh, as a person who walked in our footsteps and knew our pain. So thanks for joining with me, Pastor Nick, and with Beautiful Savior in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, for not just this, but the 3 brief Bible dives. If you missed the other 2, go back and catch those as well about gold and frankincense. But there's a little bit more about the 3 gifts of the Magi, these 3, pagan magicians who somehow knew way more than the people even right around Jesus in his land, had some special understanding about this young child. We'd love for you, if you want to learn more about our church, to go to our website, bslcmi.org, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, select to receive notifications, share it, the whole thing. Now, go out and love God and love your neighbors.